Did you know that the image of Mary, which millions of the faithful venerate today across the globe under the title of Our Lady of Perpetual Help, was actually lost for over 300 years before it was rediscovered? It is a staggering thought. This isn't just a story about a painting, it is a chronicle of sacred art, deep-rooted devotion, and divine providence acting through the centuries. It is an invitation for us today, on her feast day, to look once more into the eyes of that mother, the mother who never ceases to come to the aid of her children. Chapter 1. The Origins of the Icon. A Sacred Journey from Crete to Rome. The icon of Our Lady of Perpetual Help has an ancient and mysterious origin, reaching back into the golden age of Byzantine sacred art. You see, this image is not just a portrait. It belongs to a profound tradition where every brushstroke carries a theological weight, a visual gospel where every element, every color, and every gesture has a precise spiritual meaning. According to the traditions handed down to us, this particular icon was likely painted on the island of Crete, a Mediterranean jewel that was a powerhouse of sacred art between the 13th and 15th centuries. This was a time when the artistic maturity of the East reached its peak, spreading its spiritual influence across the entire Mediterranean basin. But how did it reach the heart of the church? Pious tradition tells us of a merchant who acquired this sacred treasure in Crete toward the end of the 15th century. He brought it with him to Rome, but as his life drew to a close, he felt a burning responsibility. He knew this image did not belong in a private home. It belonged to the world. He entrusted the icon to a close friend with a final, solemn request. Place this image in a church for public veneration, so that all the faithful may seek her intercession. However, human weakness intervened. The merchant's friend did not fulfill that dying wish immediately. The icon remained hidden behind the walls of a private house, unseen by the world, but heaven would not be silenced. Tradition tells us that the Virgin Mary appeared in visions, both to this man and to his young daughter. She spoke with maternal authority, asking that the image be moved to a church where she could be honored publicly. After these miraculous signs, the family finally understood. They could no longer keep the Mother of God to themselves. They began searching for the perfect home for the icon, and their choice fell upon the Church of St. Matthew, located on the Via Merulana in Rome, strategically positioned between the great basilicas of St. Mary Major and St. John Lateran. On March 27, 1499, the Augustinian friars received the image with great joy. That date marks the true beginning of the public devotion to Our Lady of Perpetual Help in the Eternal City. From that moment, the Roman people flocked to her, moved by her solemn features and her tender expression. Countless graces were reported, and the devotion spread like wildfire through the streets of Rome. This origin, preserved through oral tradition and ancient documents, presents us with an image that has been a channel of grace for over 5 centuries. Regardless of the exact historical minutiae, the truth remains. Providence used this icon to draw the faithful closer to the mystery of Christ and his Blessed Mother. Chapter 2. 3 centuries of devotion in St. Matthew's. For more than 300 years, the people of Rome sought refuge at the feet of this image. The small church of St. Matthew became a perpetual pilgrimage site. Devotees came to lay down their burdens, to give thanks for miracles, and to simply gaze upon that face, which seemed to offer a silent, tender invitation to trust in her completely. The Augustinian friars were the faithful guardians of this treasure. They promoted her cult, they documented the wonders she worked, and they watched as her fame crossed the borders of their neighborhood, reaching every corner of Rome. Even pilgrims visiting the great basilicas would detour just to catch a glimpse of her. During this long period, the church remained a spiritual beacon. Even though it was located in what was then the outskirts of the city, The simplicity of the building only served to highlight the spiritual wealth within. It was a constant reminder that the greatness of our faith doesn't depend on marble and gold, but on the depth of the encounter between a soul and its creator. But the history of Rome at the end of the 18th century was about to take a dark turn. The Napoleonic invasions and the political storms shaking Italy brought devastation to the church. Convents were closed, monasteries were seized, and many sacred sites were destroyed by the occupation forces. Sadly, St. Matthew's was not spared. In 1798, French troops ordered the total demolition of the church to make way for new urban and military plans. To the Roman faithful, this was a heartbreaking blow. It marked the beginning of a dark era, a period of over 50 years where the icon would remain hidden, almost forgotten by the very people who loved her most. Chapter 3. The Long Silence, Loss and Obscurity. Before the hammers of the French soldiers could strike, the Augustinian friars, sensing the danger, managed to rescue the icon in the middle of the night. They moved it first to a temporary location, and eventually to the church of Santa Maria in Posterula. There, in the shadows, the image remained for decades. It was no longer the centerpiece of a bustling pilgrimage. It was kept in a private chapel, away from the public eye. And as the generations who remembered the miracles at St. Matthew's passed away, the memory of the icon of perpetual help began to fade. It was a time of silence, a time of waiting, a time when it seemed that the world had lost one of its greatest spiritual treasures, but God, in His infinite wisdom, was already preparing for its glorious return. Although the sacred image continued to receive some measure of quiet, private veneration, the massive public devotion that had defined the previous centuries began to fade, gradually, like the setting sun over the 7 hills of Rome. The historical circumstances of those dark years, marked by bitter political instability, the shifting regimes of the Papal States, and the profound trials facing the Holy Church, all conspired to push the memory of that sacred image into the hidden corners of the Roman soul. A new generation arose, a generation that had never seen the grand church of St. Matthew, nor felt the warmth of the devotion that once flourished there. They grew up as strangers to the tradition that their grandfathers and great-grandfathers had once cherished with such burning fervor. Yet, there remained a flicker of light in the darkness. An elderly sacristan named Orsetti, who as a young boy had served at the altar of the old St. Matthew. He carried within him a vivid memory, a sacred fire of devotion that time could not quench. As the years passed, he became one of the last living witnesses to a tradition that was almost extinguished. His personal memories, shared with those who would eventually search for the image, would prove vital, ensuring that the miracle of this sacred icon was not swallowed by the abyss of history. During this long period of relative abandonment, the image remained in conditions that were far beneath the honor she had once received. Some accounts from that time suggest she was placed in obscure corners within the convent, shrouded in dust, practically unknown to the general public. Even so, a few of the older religious brothers kept the flickering flame of her origin alive, whispering of the devotion she had once inspired among the faithful of the Eternal City. This period of shadow and silence, which stretched for more than 50 years, stands in dramatic contrast to the glory that was to follow. Divine providence, which moves in ways that often escape our human understanding, was preparing the world. The stage was being set for that sacred icon to return to her rightful place. But this time, with a universal mission, reaching far beyond the narrow streets of a Roman neighborhood to the ends of the earth. Chapter 4. The Sacred Reunion and the Mission of the Redemptorists. A series of divine events led to the rediscovery of the image and its final home. By the middle of the 19th century, on the very ground near where the old church of St. Matthew once stood, the congregation of the Most Holy Redeemer was established. These were the Redemptorists, a religious order founded by the great Saint Alphonsus Liguori. What might have seemed like a mere coincidence was, in truth, a miraculous arrangement of divine providence. It began with a young Redemptorist, Father Francesco Blossi. While he was preaching on the wonders of the Blessed Mother, he happened to mention an ancient, forgotten devotion to a miraculous image that had once blessed that part of Rome. In the pews that day sat a young boy named Alessio, whose grandfather had been none other than the old sacristan of St. Matthew's. The boy listened with wide eyes, for he had heard the stories. He told his confessor, also a Redemptorist, everything his grandfather had whispered about the lost icon. Thus, a chain of holy inquiries began, leading the way back to the light. The search eventually led the Redemptorists to the convent of Santa Maria in Posterula, and there, in a state of quiet neglect, they found her, the ancient image that had been the heart of Rome for centuries. The recognition was instant, confirmed by the testimonies of those who still held the image in their hearts. It was, indeed, the same sacred icon that many believed had been lost forever when the old church was demolished. The Redemptorists, deeply moved by the spiritual weight of this discovery, and seeing the hand of God in the fact that their own headquarters sat so close to her original home, petitioned Pope Pius IX. They asked for permission to bring the image to their own church, dedicated to their founder, Saint Alphonsus, the Holy Father. After hearing the incredible story, did more than just grant permission. He looked upon the icon and gave a command that would change history forever. Make her known throughout the world. This papal mandate marked the birth of a new era. No longer would this devotion be confined to a single neighborhood in Rome. It was to become a universal call to prayer. What had been the spiritual treasure of a few Roman faithful was about to become one of the most beloved Marian devotions in the entire Catholic world. Fulfilling, and by the grace of God, the mission entrusted to the Redemptorists by the successor of Peter. Chapter 5. The enthronement at the Church of St. Alphonsus. The solemn transfer of the image was the spark that ignited a global fire of faith. On April 26, 1866, in a magnificent ceremony that drew thousands of the faithful, the image was carried in a grand procession. From the convent of Santa Maria in Posterula, she traveled through the streets to her new home at the Church of St. Alphonsus, on the very same Via Merulana where she had reigned centuries before. This was not lost on the people of Rome. The mother was returning to her children, returning to her neighborhood, completing a miraculous circle that proved the providential hand of God was guiding every step. Once the image was installed, the Redemptorists began their work with holy zeal. Faithful to the command of Pope Pius IX, they dedicated themselves to spreading her name through powerful preaching, solemn novenas, and the promotion of her image. The fame of Our Lady of Perpetual Help spread like wildfire, first through Rome, then all of Italy, and soon to every corner of the Catholic world. The Church of St. Alphonsus, which had been a modest temple, was transformed into a great center of pilgrimage. People of all walks of life, from the poor to the noble, flocked to venerate the image, drawn by her story of survival and the miracles that began to be attributed to her intercession. The church itself had to be expanded, beautified, and adorned to welcome the massive crowds who came to seek the protection of the Mother of God in her new, glorious home. The Redemptorist fathers understood immediately that their mission was far greater than simply acting as custodians of a sacred image. They realized that they held a sacred trust, a divine mandate to spread the knowledge of this icon to every corner of the earth, exactly as the Holy Father had commanded them. Make her known, the Pope had said, and the Redemptorists took those words to heart. leveraging the vast international network of their congregation, which was already flourishing in numerous countries across the globe. They began a monumental effort. They promoted the meticulous reproduction of the image and the tireless sharing of its miraculous history. In a remarkably short span of time, copies of the sacred icon began to be venerated in cathedrals, humble parish churches, and remote missions across all 5 continents. Everywhere the image went, it carried the profound message of Mary's spiritual motherhood under this specific and powerful title. This initial period of expansion was not merely a matter of logistics. It laid the very foundation for what would become one of the most widespread and deeply rooted Marian devotions in Catholic history. It is a striking testament to how divine providence works. God can take the most seemingly adverse circumstances, like the image being hidden, forgotten, and gathering dust for decades, and use them to prepare a devotional flowering of a magnitude far greater than it had ever known before. What was once a local secret was now a universal gift for the people of God. Chapter 6. Papal Approval and the Canonical Coronation. The Church did not merely watch from the sidelines. She officially confirmed this devotion, granting it a solemn and lasting recognition that resonates to this day. The official approval of the Holy See went far beyond Pope Pius IX's initial decree to move the image. As the devotion spread, and as countless testimonies of miraculous graces began to pour in, the Vatican granted successive honors that solemnized this cult, integrating it fully into the rich and ancient tradition of Marian devotions approved by the Catholic Church. One of the most solemn expressions of this official recognition was the canonical coronation of the sacred icon. This is a high liturgical ceremony where the Church, through the direct authority of the Pope, acknowledges an image that is particularly beloved and venerated by the faithful. This coronation was performed with immense splendor and sacred pomp. It involved placing crowns of pure gold upon the heads of both the Blessed Mother and the Christ child. These crowns are not just ornaments. They are powerful symbols of the spiritual royalty that the Church recognizes in Christ and in his mother. Furthermore, the liturgical celebration of this title was formally established. The Church set June 27th as the official feast day, a date that closely aligns with the anniversary of the icon's original installation in the ancient Church of St. Matthew. This allows the faithful all across the Catholic world to unite their voices every year in a universal chorus of prayer, celebrating the feast of Our Lady of Perpetual Help. The Church's recognition also extended to the various pious practices that have grown around the icon. This includes the official approval of the Perpetual Novena, a prayer tradition that millions recite with unwavering faith, as well as the various consecrations and prayers composed by the faithful over the decades. These approved practices have served to structure and enrich the spiritual lives of countless devotees, providing a clear path for their filial devotion. The Church of St. Alphonsus in the Eternal City, the very place where the original icon is kept, was elevated to the status of a shrine. This recognized its vital importance as a center of pilgrimage and a source of spiritual light. To this very day, that sanctuary remains the heart of this devotion, receiving a constant stream of pilgrims from every nation, souls who travel thousands of miles just to stand before the original image, to seek the graces that have been dispensed so abundantly for centuries. Chapter 7. Description and symbolism of the icon, Mary and the Christ child. Every single line, every color, and every gesture within this sacred icon holds a profound theological meaning. It is a visual sermon that deserves our deepest contemplation. The composition follows the strict and ancient rules of Byzantine iconography, where nothing is accidental, and every element communicates a divine truth. At the center of it all is Mary. She is depicted holding the child Jesus, wrapped in a dark mantle that covers her head, in accordance with the tradition that symbolizes her status as a virgin mother, completely consecrated to the will of God. But look closely at the face of Mary. It is the heart of the entire composition. Her expression is one of deep gravity, yet it is infused with an immense ternity. This unique gaze has been the subject of countless meditations by saints and scholars alike. Her eyes, large and almond-shaped, do not look at the child she holds. Instead, they look directly at you. They look at the spectator, at the one who kneels before her in prayer. This is not a coincidence. Mary looks at every single believer, establishing a personal, soul-to-soul contact that invites trust and divine dialogue. It is as if she is saying, "I see you, I hear you, and I am here to intercede for your every need." And then there is the child Jesus. He is not portrayed as a passive infant, but with an active and highly expressive posture. His hands tell a story of their own. With both of his small hands, he reaches out to grasp the hand of his mother. It is a gesture that iconographers interpret as a search for comfort and protection. This image does not show us a stoic, detached God, but a Jesus who is truly human, a child who can feel fear, who can seek refuge in the arms of his mother. It manifests the staggering reality of the Incarnation. The Son of God took on our human nature, including our vulnerabilities. Perhaps the most famous detail of the icon is the loose sandal, hanging precariously from the child's foot. What might look like a simple mistake by the artist is actually a profound theological statement. It represents a sudden, startled movement. Jesus has rushed to his mother's protection so quickly that his shoe has nearly fallen off. It is a visual sign of his genuine humanity, showing that he experienced the same emotions we do, and that he chose to find his earthly solace in Mary. Finally, we must contemplate the background, that shimmering, radiant gold. In the Byzantine tradition, gold does not represent a physical place. It symbolizes the uncreated light of God. It represents eternity and the celestial glory where this sacred scene takes place. It tells us that while the emotions are human, the event is divine, and it belongs to the realm of the eternal. This golden background, this radiant aura of light, lifts the entire composition far beyond a simple, naturalistic portrayal of a mother and her child. It places the scene within the realm of the sacred, in the sphere of the transcendent. It serves as a constant reminder to the viewer that they are not merely looking at a painting, but contemplating a divine mystery, a mystery that surpasses all human understanding, even as it speaks to us through the most profoundly human emotions. Chapter 8. The Instruments of the Passion, the theological heart of the image. The archangels and the symbols they carry reveal the deepest meaning of this Marian icon. On either side of the central figures, the sacred icon presents two celestial messengers who complete the theological tapestry of the scene. To the left of the observer, we see the archangel Michael. He holds the spear and the sponge soaked in vinegar, those instruments directly tied to the passion of Christ. The spear that pierced his side, and the sponge offered to him during his final moments on the cross. To the right, the archangel Gabriel holds the cross and the nails, the very elements of the crucifixion. The presence of these instruments in an image of the child Jesus and his mother, what should be a scene of tender, quiet intimacy, introduces a prophetic dimension. It is the key to unlocking the icon's true purpose. These archangels are not showing decorative objects. They are presenting the young Jesus with the instruments of his future suffering. They are anticipating the redemptive destiny that would define his entire earthly life. This juxtaposition between the innocence of childhood and the signs of impending sacrifice reflects a core truth of Christian spirituality. It is the realization that the mystery of the Incarnation is inseparably bound to the mystery of redemption through the cross. Our Lord was not born simply to live an ordinary life. From his very first breath, he was oriented toward the sacrifice that would culminate at Calvary, the sacrifice through which all of humanity would be redeemed from sin. Look closely at the child's reaction, his sense of dread, as he seeks refuge in his mother's arms. This takes on a much deeper meaning when we view it through the lens of the Passion. This is not merely the fear of a small child facing the unknown. No, it is a symbolic representation of the agony that Christ would experience as an adult. The same weight of sorrow described in the Garden of Gethsemane, and Mary, in this context, is far more than a mother comforting her son. In a deeper theological sense, she is the one who accompanied Jesus throughout his entire life. Following him all the way to the foot of the cross, she continues to accompany all of her children in their own moments of suffering. The title, Our Lady of Perpetual Help, carries a density of meaning that goes far beyond simple assistance with daily chores. Mary, who felt in her own flesh the pain of watching her son suffer, understands human pain at its most profound level. She offers her heavenly intercession to all who turn to her in their darkest trials. Chapter 9. The expansion of devotion across the globe. From the heart of the Eternal City, the devotion to Our Lady of Perpetual Help spread to nearly every corner of the Catholic world. After the sacred icon was installed in the Church of St. Alphonsus, and following the papal command to make her known to the whole world, the Redemptorists began a systematic and tireless mission to promote this Marian devotion. The results were nothing short of extraordinary. Leveraging their international presence, with missions already established in Europe, the Americas, Asia, and Oceania, they ensured that copies of the sacred icon were venerated in the most distant lands, carrying with them the message of Mary's maternal protection. In Latin America, this devotion found incredibly fertile ground, becoming deeply woven into the fabric of popular piety. Churches, chapels, and great shrines dedicated to Our Lady of Perpetual Help multiplied from the mountains of Mexico to the plains of Argentina. In many places, she became one of the most beloved titles of the Blessed Mother, rivaling even the oldest traditions of the region. The simplicity and the depth of the message within the image, combined with the active witness of the Redemptorist fathers, made her a cornerstone of the faith. The devotion also spread with power to the Philippines, where centuries of Catholic heritage had prepared the hearts of the people for such an intense devotion. In this island nation, Our Lady of Perpetual Help became one of the most cherished figures of the Blessed Mother, with shrines that draw thousands, showing how this Byzantine icon and its Roman devotion could transcend every cultural and geographical border, becoming a spiritual treasure for all peoples. And here, in the United States and other nations built by the hands of immigrants, the devotion to Our Lady of Perpetual Help became a vital spiritual anchor, especially among the Hispanic, Filipino, and Italian communities. This image often represented a sacred link to their ancestral traditions, while simultaneously being integrated into the vibrant parish life of their new American homes. This incredible geographical expansion, which in just a century and a half took the image from a small church in Rome to the entire world, is a powerful testament. It shows that an authentic Marian devotion, built on filial trust in Mary's intercession, speaks to a universal spiritual need, the need to feel accompanied, and the need to be helped by a heavenly mother amidst the struggles of this life. Chapter 10. The meaning of the feast. Today, Mary as our constant refuge, in our own time. The Feast of Our Lady of Perpetual Help serves as a renewed call to trust in Mary's maternal closeness. As the Church celebrates this feast, she invites the faithful to place their unwavering confidence in the intercession of Mary, under this specific title that emphasizes the constancy and the permanence of her aid. In a world that is often changing and uncertain, her help remains perpetual. In a world that is constantly marked by uncertainty, by the dizzying speed of change, and by the heavy burdens that breed deep anxiety and fear in the hearts of so many, the central message of this Marian devotion remains powerfully relevant. It tells us that there is a constant maternal presence, a sacred refuge to which we can turn at any hour and in any circumstance of our lives. The word perpetual in the title of Our Lady of Perpetual Help must not be misunderstood as a promise of magic solutions or some automatic fix to every trial we face. Instead, it is a solemn affirmation of Mary's unfailing availability, a promise that she is always ready to hear our cries and to intercede for us before the throne of her divine Son. This availability does not depend on our own merits, nor on the perceived perfection of our spiritual lives. Rather, it flows from the very nature of Mary's motherhood, a motherhood that the Church teaches is extended to every child of God, especially in those moments of our greatest need. The feast we celebrate today is an invitation to meditate deeply on the profound meaning of the sacred icon we venerate. In that holy image, we see the child Jesus, who, catching sight of the instruments of his future passion, seeks immediate refuge in the arms of his blessed mother. This small yet profound gesture serves as a divine reminder for us that when we are faced with the trials and the inevitable sufferings of this life, we too can, and indeed must, seek refuge in Mary. We can trust with all our hearts that she, who stood faithfully by her Son even unto the foot of the cross, understands our suffering more deeply than we can imagine, and she walks beside us with a mother's tender intercession. In the life of the Church today, the devotion to Our Lady of Perpetual Help continues to be championed, most notably by the Congregation of the Redemptorists, whose mission has spread her name to every corner of the globe. Her presence is felt in countless parishes, in quiet shrines, and in the hearts of religious communities who have taken her as their patroness. The practice of the weekly perpetual novena, which is a staple in so many parishes, keeps this sacred tradition vibrant and alive. It provides the faithful with a regular, holy space to lay down their heavy burdens, to present their intentions, and to renew their absolute confidence in the Blessed Mother's help. Let this celebration be more than just a historical memory of the events that birthed this devotion. Let it be a renewed opportunity to strengthen our own filial bond with Mary. Let us entrust to her our most pressing needs, while also giving profound thanks for the graces we have received throughout our journey. Let us commit ourselves to living as she lived, in constant readiness to serve the Lord, and to be a source of comfort to our brothers and sisters, especially those who most need our help and our company in their own moments of darkness. Chapter 11. A prayer of thanksgiving to Our Lady of Perpetual Help. O Mother of Perpetual Help, on this your most holy feast day, the entire Church joins its voice together to honor you and to thank you for your constant maternal intercession throughout the centuries. We bless the Lord our God for giving us in you a sure refuge, a sanctuary of peace to which we can fly at any moment, and through every trial of our existence. We give you thanks for the divine providence that has guided the history of your sacred icon. We thank you for its origins in the ancient traditions of sacred art, for the centuries of quiet devotion in that humble church in the eternal city, for its miraculous preservation through the storms of history, and for its glorious rediscovery, which allowed your honor to spread to the furthest reaches of the earth. In every one of these events, we recognize the loving hand of God, who willed to keep this devotion alive for the eternal good of his children. We thank you also for the profound message that your sacred icon whispers to our souls, the image of a son who, seeing the shadow of the cross, finds comfort in his mother, and the image of a mother who receives him with infinite tenderness, holding him close in his moment of fear. May we find that same refuge and that same comfort in you, especially in our hours of deepest difficulty and anguish. Mother of perpetual help, we pray that you renew within us a childlike confidence in your intercession. May we never doubt your readiness to hear us, or your power to present our petitions before your Son. Remind us always that your help, as your very title proclaims, is perpetual. It is constant. It is available in every time and every place to all who call upon you with sincere faith. Walk with the entire church in its mission to proclaim the gospel to all nations, just as you accompanied the spread of your own devotion from a small church in Rome to the ends of the earth. May your maternal presence continue to be, for generations to come, an eloquent sign of God's love, a love that never abandons his children. Virgin of perpetual help, pray for us now and always, and lead us, as you have always done, toward your Son, Jesus Christ, the source of all grace and our eternal salvation. Amen.